I just want to like get our names out there. I feel like for whatever reason, the gaming space has not been that receptive to crypto. I think there are a lot of haters out there, but I feel like there is actually a pretty natural overlap, and I want to help change people's minds and make that happen. And yeah, I think having the association between Nouns Esports, which is like like you said, probably one of the most transparent esports teams, and one of the good actors in the space, is probably the best way to do that.
Yo, grab your headphones, get ready to roll. ZeroPod coming at you, taking control. We talking about nouns, NFTs, and Web3. Doing it big, bringing the knowledge for free.
Welcome back to another episode of ZeroPod, a CC0 video podcast about enjoying Ethereum, enjoying nouns, and enjoying life on chain. I'm your host, Toady Hawk from the Noun Square Onchain Media Collective, and I'm excited to welcome our guest this week, Amir Bandeali, co-founder and co-CEO of ZeroX Labs and Matcha. We just made a pretty exciting announcement together a few weeks ago, revealing that Matcha has come on board as a partner sponsor for Nouns Esports organization, with the Noun Square as the supporting media partner. So we wanted to bring on Amir today to hear his story, learn a little bit more about him and about the partnership as well. So welcome, Amir, to Zero Rights Reserved.
Awesome. Thanks for having me. Been a long time Nouner, and excited to be here.
Amazing. Well, we always like to start with the personal and then get into the projects later on this podcast. So we'd love to hear, if you don't mind sharing a little bit more about your journey. I'd love to hear how you ended up an on-chain person. How did you get how did your crypto journey start?
Yeah, so kind of started in two ways. So this is back like I think it was around 2013 or so. I was working at a prop trading firm called DRW. And I was also playing online poker kind of semi-professionally on the side. So I actually first discovered crypto through the online poker. Was looking for a place to play in the U.S. and found this Bitcoin poker site, and didn't really know what it was. It was literally just to get money on and off. And then working at a trading firm, a lot of people kind of saw the first really big Bitcoin run up and were just like, what is this thing? And that's when I really started paying attention and learning about the technology and trying to understand it. And was lucky enough to have a group of coworkers that just got really passionate about it together. And we really fell down the rabbit hole, became pretty crypto obsessed. And in 2016, couldn't really think about anything else. Discovered Ethereum, and I was like mind blown. Like, there's so many possibilities that this technology could.
It's like, wait, we can build on this one?
Yeah, exactly. Bitcoin, like, naturally, I naturally understood it because I was a trader, and we were very tapped into like macroeconomics and interest rates and things like that. It just made sense as like a kind of decentralized inflationary hedge. But yeah, Ethereum was just something else. It was very obvious to me that there's going to be all sorts of new technology, built on top of this.
It's interesting that you say that about being in TradFi and it making sense, because one of the things that I was thinking of when I was looking at your background and seeing that you did start in TradFi is that a lot of TradFi folks actually don't see it, or they willfully don't see it, or they see enough enough negatives and they overlook the positives of crypto. Why do you think that is, and why do you think you were able to kind of see the benefits of Bitcoin?
It's a good question. One, I think was young and optimistic, and to the point where, honestly, I was probably a little bit naive about the technology in some ways, but I think that is also what a lot of startup founders need, right? Just unbridled optimism about the technology. But then on the other hand, like playing poker, I actually had a few experiences where essentially got rugged, right? And I like naturally understood the value of having this non-custodial technology where you are always in control of your own funds. Um, and yeah, I think that the value proposition just really resonated with me. I mean,
And by the way, at the
played.
time, poker sites were rugging fiat at that time too, so it wasn't like unique to crypto. Some were, yeah.
Yeah. No, it was actually not on a crypto poker site. I played online poker in college, and I was playing on one of the biggest sites at the time, Full Tilt Poker, which
Mm-hmm.
essentially turned out to be fraudulent, and government shut it down, and I literally lost all of my money. It was all on Full Tilt Poker at the time. So,
Damn,
uh,
you
I mean, it
really took
was
it to heart. You went full tilt.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Um, so yeah, I think that was probably a big part of it.
It's interesting. Zeneca, he's a sort of an educator from Zen Academy. He
Yeah.
used to play online poker as well. Did you guys ever cross paths?
We did not, but
Mm.
yeah, it seems like there are a lot of ex online poker players in the crypto space for whatever reason.
There's some kind of a Venn diagram, some
Yeah,
sort of
definitely like
a degen,
familiar with
a
some of
degen.
them. Like yeah, like Haseeb Qureshi at Dragonfly. Like I used to watch his training videos and stuff like that back in the day. So yeah, it was pretty crazy to meet him in the early days too.
Awesome. All right. So you started out in the Midwest, if I'm not mistaken, and then at some point you moved to SF. Was that in order to start to 0x, or was there another reason that brought you out west?
So it was not specifically to start ZeroX, but it was to get into the crypto space. I knew I wanted to leave my job in trading. I knew I wanted to do something in crypto, and I actually left my job to go to a coding boot camp, Hack Reactor. Um, I had a minor in computer science, but like didn't use it too much as part of the trading job, and I still needed to learn like a lot of fundamentals at the time, and figured that was how I could get into the crypto space. So did that,
Was that like
and then
general
I
engineering, or was it like specifically Solidity and crypto?
it was general engineering, which was no one knew Solidity at the time. It was this brand new programming language. So once I graduated Hack Reactor, even though I was a relatively new programmer, just by like really focusing on Solidity after that, it was not that difficult to like quickly become probably one of the better Solidity engineers in the world at the time, because there just were not that many out there, right? It was not like today, where yeah, I mean now it's relatively common to find Solidity engineers. The language is much better, and you could do way more things with it much more easily. Smart contracts are much more complex today than they were back then as well. So yeah.
So have you been able to keep up on all that, or has your engineering prowess lagged?
It's definitely lagged. I mean, I wrote a lot of code for probably like the
Oh,
first.
we got a special guest behind you
Oh,
there.
yeah, my bad. He's a feisty one.
It's all good.
Um, uh, yeah, I wrote a lot of code for probably the first 3-4 years at ZeroX. Was heavily involved in the smart contracts for like the first three versions of the protocol, and wrote a lot of our developer tools and things like that. But yeah, since then I found it's just higher leverage to basically hire engineers that are much smarter than I am, and focus more on the business side of things.
All right, well let's talk about that. So let's talk about 0x. Where did the idea come for 0x? What is 0x for some of our listeners who might not be familiar, and tell us about the beginnings of that business.
Yeah, I'll tell you about the beginnings first, and then kind of what it is today. It's definitely evolved over time. So I moved out to San Francisco, did this coding boot camp, and met my co-founder Will. Um, while I was there, he was good childhood friends with one of my coworkers at DRW, and similar stages in life, like both looking to get into crypto. And he was already working on a protocol, which was a tokenized options protocol, with the idea that crypto was extremely volatile and there needed to be some way to hedge volatility. Um, but we quickly realized that these weren't going to be that useful unless there was a place that you could actually trade these tokens. And talking to other early teams that were building in the space, they all had the same problem. They had some sort of tokens associated with their protocols and no way to trade them, and they were all building their own proprietary decentralized exchange. So we came up with this idea for a standard decentralized exchange protocol. Yeah, ZeroX was the first DEX protocol back in the day. It was using order books. It was sort of trying to replicate what we saw was successful in TradFi in a very efficient way. So we pioneered the idea of like off-chain orders, on-chain settlement. You could like create orders for free without gas costs and things like that. Over time, more and more types of DEXs started coming to the space. Automated market makers, all sorts of different types of automated market makers, RFQ. And we realized there was not going to be like a one size fits all model for decentralized exchange. So we pivoted a little bit into liquidity aggregation. And that's what we're focused on today. So we have a suite of APIs that let developers tap into on-chain liquidity, in the easiest way possible at the best prices. So we will aggregate liquidity across all the different decentralized exchanges or on 9 different blockchains. It is the main way that we found applications monetize in this space. They build up their user base, they have swap functionality in some form, and they'll take a fee. So it is really mission critical functionality for.
Yeah, it makes sense, because I think that's the biggest criticism a lot of people have of Ethereum in particular, but also crypto more broadly, is this fragmentation of liquidity, and how it will never be able to compete with TradFi or even something more centralized like Solana, because they can centralize their liquidity so much better. So yeah, it's important to have protocols that are working on that problem. Can you give us an example of a protocol or another app maybe that's using ZeroX to give our listeners an idea, how they're leveraging what you guys do?
Yeah, so most of the major wallets in the space, Coinbase Wallet, MetaMask, Robinhood Wallet, they're using us. I would say, yeah, honestly, most applications that have swaps use us. Stapper, Sirion, Brave Wallet. I think we have like over 100 different integrators. Um, and
And if they didn't use you, what would they have to do? They'd have to make their own liquidity, or they'd have to go into each chain and find a separate provider. Is that kind of the alternative?
Yeah, I think the for like newcomers in the space, a lot of people probably don't think too hard about it, and might just integrate like vanilla Uniswap or something like that. Um, but yeah, it is extremely complicated to integrate all of the different liquidity sources yourself. There are many different layers in the stack, with varying complexity. The smart contracts need to be extremely gas optimized. Need to be able to add new liquidity sources without adding any security risk and things like that. There are, there's actual routing algorithm and everything that goes into that. That is, largely an unsolved problem. I would say that the major aggregators in the space tend to have slightly different algorithms and can have different pricing in different scenarios and things like that. And yeah, new chain integrations. It's just like a constant stream of work, because there are always new AMMs coming out, new chains launching, new tokens, now tokens of like custom functionality and things like that. So yeah, I would really not recommend trying to roll it yourself.
Yeah, it makes sense. It's probably a lot of pressure on you guys too, though, to stay on top of all these changes because I'm assuming all of your clients expect you to have the new shiny chain supported right away.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
All right, let's talk about matcha. Where did matcha, or when did matcha come into the picture, rather, and how does matcha sort of tie into 0x?
Yeah, so Matcha is a DEX aggregator that is built on top of the APIs that we have. So, we offer the same APIs to everyone else, but, um, also use Matcha as a way to both kind of dog food our own technology and also to help drive adoption in the DEX space more broadly. So, yeah, I think we launched the APIs maybe around the end of 2019 or early 2020, and then we launched Matcha kind of later 2020. Um, and yeah, originally it was, I would say, more a way to dog food our own technology and kind of be an early adopter of everything and like show people how it's done, right? So that other developers could use Matcha as an example. But yeah, we've come to put more effort into it and really make it like I think that the best one of the best consumer products in crypto period. Certainly if you compare it to any other DEX aggregator out there, like Maja has by far the best user experience. We put a lot of time and effort and care into the user experience, the design, the speed, the simplicity of the product. Um,
Even just down to the branding, I really love the branding. The pops of green and the sort of colorfulness is playfulness. I like it. Where did matcha come from? Where did you come up with that name? Do you remember?
Yeah, I can't take the credit for that one. We, uh, I think it was our head of design at the time was just brainstorming different ideas, and we kind of sat down, looked at all of them, and took a vote. And I don't know exactly what it was that made it stand out, but yeah, we were all immediately drawn to it, and yeah, it just kind of lasted over time.
Am I overthinking it? That like I always thought it meant like kind of you're matching up with other, with like matching bids to cells and stuff. Is that am I like a grade 11 English teacher here reading too far into it?
No, that thought has definitely crossed my mind. It was not like a explicit part of the meaning, I guess, but it was
Hmm.
kind of like a nice side effect of the
A
name.
bonus.
Like, yeah, exactly.
So, what are the main features of matcha, and maybe if you have any favorite features that maybe people might not know a lot about?
Yeah, so it supports like all tokens by default. It's like literally millions of tokens for like indexing the blockchain in real time. And when you open up Matcha, it's like a search engine. It's like really easy to just like find whatever token you're looking for and select the chain. And
That's actually huge because I find like on some of the dexes it can be really difficult to find the token. Sometimes even if you put the contract address in, and then you're always wondering, even as a seasoned crypto user, do I have the right contract? Did I where did I get that contract from? So there's a lot of unknowns, and the more new you are to crypto, the more likely you are to make a mistake trying to find that token.
yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean we put in a lot of effort to um, you know make sure people know what they're doing, right? And you go into a token and there's the token page with all the different information and links and description and things like that, and then it's just yeah really easy to start trading. By default it uses what we call Matcha Auto, so this is a way of trading gaslessly. um, for many tokens you can even approve the token gaslessly. So you like literally do not need to have any gas in your wallet to start trading at all.
How does that work under the hood? Is someone subsidizing the gas? Are you subsidizing the gas, or
So we're not subsidizing. We are submitting the transaction on behalf of the user and paying the gas, but then there's a fee that gets charged. It basically gets taken out of the trade to reimburse us for the gas cost. So it's more like the gas cost is abstracted away rather than being subsidized. But then we'll also, like we'll set the gas price on behalf of the user so that your transaction gets mined really quickly and it's, not going to revert. If it does revert, we actually eat the cost. The user will never pay any cost for reverted transactions. We'll also handle MEV protection, which is a pretty complex area. So
I know that is complex, but can you explain for our listeners what is MEV and why you would want to be protected from it? Just generally, I know we could go down a rabbit hole on that, but
yeah, yeah, definitely a rabbit hole. Yeah, at a very high level, when you submit a transaction to a blockchain or a trade, in this case, there are all these bots that are monitoring transactions before they get mined, and they're like looking for opportunities to essentially extract value out of them, right? If there's like a slight mispricing in your order, or they see some sort of an arbitrage opportunity, they will like take your transaction and they might put their own transaction immediately before or immediately after, and yeah, basically take money out of your pocket that you could have otherwise saved. Um, so we will submit transactions through private mempools and order flow auctions to prevent that from ever happening.
so
Yeah,
this is similar to Flashbots. It's kind of like your own. You rolled
yeah, I mean,
something similar.
we don't we use third party providers, similar to Flashbots, but the point is users don't need to think about it. If you did want to do that yourself, it's like you need to like go into your wallet and put in a custom RPC endpoint. You need to like research which providers are best and things.
I think the only way we go mainstream is when more and more of this stuff is abstracted. Like if you look at your bank app, all of that stuff is abstracted. Like you're not every time you transfer from one account to another, if you had to see all the routing numbers and everything that's happening on the back end for them, you'd be overwhelmed. So I think that's one way that crypto can really improve. We've talked to many of our previous guests about this. We had Mike Demaray from Rainbow on, and a lot of our conversation was about how they're making a lot of efforts to abstract these things. And I just think that's going to be a huge theme going forward. The easier it is, and the less complexity people have to deal with, the better for all these types of things. Anything else you wanted to share from the platform before we move along to other subjects?
I mean, there's Matcha Auto. There are limit orders. There's
What is
kind of
Matcha
standard.
Auto? Actually, I meant to ask you about
That's
that. Yeah.
Matcha Auto is the gasless trading mode
Oh, the
that
gas
I
is trade.
talked about.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. There's limit orders. There is kind of the standard way of if you want to handle all the execution yourself, you can do that as well. And yeah, I mean, I think like I said, if you check out the product, it's very clear like the amount of care we put into just abstracting away complexity and really improving the user experience. And yeah,
How do limit orders work on there? Like, do you have to deposit into a contract, or does you just have an approval set, or?
you just set an approval and then it's an off-chain limit order. So it's basically like the original 0x, where yeah, you place an off-chain order and then when the price gets to your level, someone will either fill it or a bot will arbitrage it versus a different liquidity source, and yeah, you'll get filled.
Awesome. All right, well, let's talk a little bit about so-called L2 summer. It seems like we're finally getting there to where adoption on L2s, specifically the superchain Base and Zora and all these L2s are getting a lot of adoption, especially Base really leading the way recently. Love to hear your thoughts on sort of shifts from the last cycle where it seemed like it was very PvP, L1 versus L1, and now things do seem to be moving towards a lot of L2 activity. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, super bullish. Like, I just love that there are cheap ways to use blockchains today, right? Like, back in the last DeFi summer, sometimes you were literally paying like hundreds of dollars for a transaction to get through. And yeah, I mean, now you have several really solid options. You have a lot of a lot of good liquidity on these chains as well. A lot of new tokens coming out, a lot of consumer applications which you could not have built before in a very high gas environment. So yeah, I mean, this is exactly what we need for mainstream adoption to happen.
I wonder if you guys see some of these trends happening before the rest of us do, just because you're kind of dealing with all the liquidity and everything on the back end. You probably have a an interesting insight into, you know, the trends that are happening.
Yeah, we do have a lot of data infrastructure. We do, monitor all the new chains, because when we're deciding if we want to launch on a new chain, right, we need to look at like, are there actual DEXs for us to integrate? Are people, using these DEXs? Are there interesting tokens? Are there interesting applications, right? Like it is a bet to launch on a new chain, right? There's a constant maintenance cost of it. So yeah, we need to thoroughly understand everyone that we launch on.
And how do you weigh that out? Is it just, are there enough people here to justify it, or is it because, like you said, like some blockchains and L2s might launch and never really take off, or never launch mainnet, etc.
I mean, you gotta either have a thesis and take a bet, or wait for enough activity to kind of happen. And yeah, we do a little bit of both in different scenarios.
It probably helps if you have all of your clients, asking you to support a certain
Yeah, it
chain.
does. It does help. We are constantly talking to our customers, and yeah, know exactly what they want.
Yeah. Specifically, I wanted to ask about sort of the rise of Base, which is grown exponentially over the last 8 months. Did you expect that? I know a lot of people didn't expect Coinbase to come out of the gate like this with an L2 that really found traction. Just in general, what are your thoughts on Base?
I mean, I didn't expect them to launch base, I guess, in the first place. But once I found out that it was happening, I was extremely bullish, and I'm not surprised at the level of activity that it has. I mean, honestly, thinking back to last DeFi summer, around 2020, 2021, I remember, yeah, like I said, literally paying hundreds of dollars a transaction to get anything through on mainnet. And then I think what actually like brought a lot of newcomers into the space was Binance Smart Chain at the time. Like I know a lot of people that came in through that.
I
So,
spent a lot of
you
time
know,
on Pancake Swap back in the day for
yeah,
sure.
yeah, exactly. So, when I found out about Base, like definitely super bullish. I mean, Coinbase just owns so many parts of the stack, and like they have the ability to just drive so much activity and usage to Base. Like, yeah, very bullish on that trend continuing.
I think that was the thing that surprised me the most, is I kind of expected Coinbase to eventually do a BNB type situation, and they could have, they could have done their own L1 and a walled garden. And so I think it's, we're very fortunate, and I think it's awesome that they decided to build an L2 and also an L2 that's integrated with the rest of the super chain, so that all of their dev work is going back into the commons, and helping the OP stack and vice versa. So
Yeah, it's impressive how like in tune they are with just like the Web3 culture and ethos and doing things the right way.
All right, let's talk a little bit about nouns. You are a nouner. I see the noggles hanging on your shirt there. I got my matcha ones that I showed you earlier, but got my green ones. You got those are the Salvinos you've got, I think, the red ones.
Yep. The original
Yeah,
Salvinos right here.
very nice. So tell us about nouns. How did you hear about nouns? What made you want to join? Because you joined during the last cycle, I believe, too. So you've had your noun for a while.
Yeah. I was relatively early nouner. I think I was just, starting to deep dive into the NFTs generally at the time, and um, most of them at the time were just like profile pictures. I mean, I guess today most of them still are. I don't remember how I discovered nouns exactly. I probably just saw it on Twitter or something like that. But once I, started doing research into it, it was just like one of those things. Like, I love it. I love seeing experiments in this space. I think that what ends up being successful in this space will probably not look like something that like exists outside of Web3, right? It won't be skeuomorphic, and the concept of nouns was just like so incredibly unique to me. And it was like, okay, you have NFTs that could be a profile picture, but like also so much more than that, right? And yeah, I was just immediately drawn to it. And yeah, honestly, I love the noggles, love the meme. I mean, it's yeah, they've done an incredible job just spreading, spreading the noggles, right? Like they're everywhere in Web3 now, and everyone immediately recognizes them, and I think it really has become like the most prominent brand in Web3 in my mind.
Yeah, I think that's right. And the funny thing is that simultaneously, like if you go to any conference, you'll know that's the case. Like I just came back from FarCon last week, and there was noggles on everybody. Many people I've never met before or never seen in the community. People just love the icon of the noggle. So I think you're right. There's something special there. But at the same time, people will like wax poetic on crypto Twitter about how Nouns was a failure, and here's all the reasons why. And they just kind of don't really get that it was never meant to be a hedge fund, or it was never meant to be some sort of global IP brand set by with a centralized controlling board. It was meant to be an experiment, like you said, and in that sense, I think it has been a success.
Yeah, I mean, I think that governance is hard and still a very unsolved problem. And Nouns had its share of governance problems, but
to
on
put
the
it
whole,
mildly,
like,
to put it mildly, yeah.
yeah, but one thing that I love about the Nouns DAO is that it is like a truly decentralized DAO, and I think most DAOs have the problem of like not spending enough money. It's kind of like just going through the motions. Um, and I think in Nouns' case, like,
Scarcity mindset you see a lot.
right. In Nouns' case, it's like, arguably almost the opposite problem, but it's a good problem in some ways.
Yeah.
And I think on the whole, yeah, it has done an incredible job just spreading the meme.
Yeah, I say that all the time, is that like permissionlessness is a double-edged sword. It really does get you crazy builders. You get people like Stupid Buddy making a documentary about Nouns, which is like something you wouldn't get any other way. But then on the flip side, of course, you get people that rug because there are always bad actors, and they're going to take advantage of that weakness, I guess. But yeah, I love that you said that it's an experiment. We had Noun 40 on our pod. Actually, it was the last episode, and he was talking a lot about his ethos for nouns, and one of the things he said about it was exactly that he's just loves that it's an experiment, and that if you were investing in nouns as like an investment, maybe it wasn't the best investment. Like it's been down only since day one. But if you're investing in it as a community, as a culture, as a experiment, then hopefully you've gotten out of it what you hope to get out of it. All right. Well, I love hearing about your Nounish journey. Thanks for sharing that. Let's talk a little bit about Nouns Esports. So, as I mentioned at the top of the show, we just announced a partnership with Matcha, Nouns Esports with Matcha, and the Noun Square here being a media partner as well. And it's pretty exciting. I think that we're very aligned in our values, and I'd love to hear a little bit about how that came to be.
Yeah, I can't take the credit for this one either. I think our marketing team somehow got connected with Nouns Esports, and um, but once they shared the opportunity with me, I was like, okay, yeah, I'm like super familiar, super on board. Love the Nouns brand. I think would love to be associated with this, and yeah, I mean, I think everything good I said about Nouns, right, like applies to this partnership as well. I think it is one of the strongest brands in Web3. And yeah, I think it seems like a great opportunity for both of us. And, I met a bunch of the Nouns Esports team at ETH Denver as well. I was talking with Peter for quite a bit. And, one of the things he was talking about, or we were talking about business models within esports teams, and he was talking about how most did not really have a business model. It's kind of like you just raise VC funding and like figure it out, but like haven't really figured it out, and thought this was also an opportunity to kind of contribute back, right, by sponsoring an esports team and helping create a sustainable business.
Yeah, Peter's also talked a lot about how gamers have reacted positively to the transparency of the Nouns Esports model compared to most, because most of these esports teams are just black boxes. Nobody knows who's getting paid what, where it's coming from, etc. So that was kind of like a breath of fresh air for people when they saw, like, literally the funding was all on chain, so you could go through and see exactly where it came from and where it's going. Speaking of Peter, actually, I was chatting with Peter before jumping on with you, and he had a couple questions that he wanted me to ask you. So can I put you in the esports hot seat for a minute and
Sure,
ask you
but
some?
I'll caveat I am not an esports expert, but go for
That's
it.
all good. He just wanted to know though, are you an esports fan? Like, do you have any esports that you've followed before this?
So I haven't followed esports too much. I on a personal level, I play a good amount of Smash. Not oh my God, my cat just totally jumped on my desk.
Right on cue, smash. That's
Me.
all good.
Crazy guy.
Not the first special guest cat that we've had on this podcast, so don't worry about it. So you
Anyways,
were saying you played Smash. I don't know
yeah,
if you
I
saw
played.
it, but Nouns Esports literally just passed a prop to do a Smash tournament. So
Yeah, I saw that there was the Matcha Cup, and yeah, I saw they recently brought on, I think, like the number one ranked Smash player in the world. So yeah, I thought that was super cool. Back in the day, I used to play a good amount of Hearthstone and like watch those tournaments and stuff as
me
well.
too,
But
man.
yeah,
I still play Hearthstone.
yeah,
I only have time for Arena now because it's like impossible to stay up with Constructed. But
yeah,
I
exactly.
always loved that game.
Ever since starting Zero X, I was like, I don't have no time.
That's cool. What about even further back than that? He's asking if you have any kind of nostalgic associations with games. Did you play any like retro games back in the day? Nintendo, Super Nintendo, these things.
Yeah, I played a lot of started with Sega Genesis, played a lot of like
Ooh, you're a
Sonic
Sega
games
guy.
and
Okay,
stuff like that. Yeah, I was more of a Sega guy than a Nintendo guy. But then
that's okay. We can still be friends. It's all right.
uh, but I played yeah, later on also played a lot of like JRPGs and stuff like that, like all the Final Fantasy games. I think yeah, RPGs were my jam for quite a while.
What are you most excited about, and what do you hope to see from this collaboration?
Um, I just want to like get our names out there. You know, I feel like for whatever reason, the gaming space has not been that receptive to crypto. You know, I think there are a lot of haters out there, but I feel like there is actually a pretty natural overlap, and you know, I want to help change people's minds and make that happen. And yeah, I think you know, having the association between Nouns Esports, which is like, you know, like you said, probably one of the most transparent esports teams, and you know, one of the good actors in the space, is probably yeah, the best way to do that.
Sasquatch was showing me a Reddit post where they were talking about the Melee Cup, and um, like all the responses were pretty positive, which I think is like saying something, because I remember him sharing some Reddit posts even like a year ago or more, and there was still a good number of haters being like, oh, you know, I can't believe they're, you know, selling the brand with crypto and blah blah blah. But I think Nouns is definitely making inroads, and people are starting to understand that like not everything crypto is, you know, automatically evil. And I don't know why, like I don't know why they're so like against, like it doesn't really make sense, right? Because gamers of all people spending all this money on skins and stuff should, you know, should care more than anyone about owning their own digital assets. But for some reason,
Yeah. I have friends who like play a lot of card games, and I would ask them like, oh, like you know, would you play this game if like the cards are NFTs? And they're like, oh no, definitely not, you know. But then I'm like, you know, you rephrase the question, you're like, oh well, you know, what if you could just like own the cards and like trade them and stuff like that? And they're like, oh yeah, that's really cool.
like, are you talking like tabletop, like Magic players,
Yeah,
or yeah,
like Magic the Gathering.
yeah, that's another one. It's like, you know, they'll spend $20,000 on a piece of cardboard, but then they're like, aha, you spent, you know, this much on a not a picture, a JPEG. I wanted to just ask you a little bit about, obviously this podcast is very Ethereum centric. We try to focus on enjoying Ethereum as our main theme. Love to just know, what are your thoughts about Ethereum, where we're at in the current cycle? What are you most excited about? So kind of Ethereum present and future. Can you give us a bit on that?
I mean, super optimistic about the future. I feel like we've proven a lot in this space. Like, our thesis was always like everything of value will be tokenized, and you could just like see that playing out in real time. There are millions of different types of tokens, different types of asset classes, and just more and more activity coming on chain. But on the other hand, like it's like I said, like I think what ends up being successful in this space is not going to look the same as previous, like web 2 type products. And I think we still need to figure that out, frankly. I'm excited to just see a lot of different experimentation, a lot of different consumer apps coming out, and just like getting people to use crypto in new and novel ways. And while all that is happening, just technology is improving, it's cheaper to use, more and more complexity is becoming abstracted. I think there will be a point where people are just like using this in their everyday lives, and they don't even really know that they're using crypto or Ethereum under the hood.
Yeah, I think that's true. The abstraction that we talked about earlier is the key. Are there any features that you guys are working on internally at ZeroX or Matcha that you're excited about? Any alpha you can share?
I don't.
You're like, do I need to run this by the lawyers?
Yeah, right. I have alpha, but I don't know that I can share it yet. But yeah, keep your eyes peeled in the next couple of months. We'll be having some big launches in the near future.
All right.
Both on Matcha and the ZeroX side.
All right. Well, we can't get the alpha here, but you'll give it to us when the time comes, right? You'll reach out.
Yes.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time to sit down with me today, Amir. It was great chatting about all things matcha and crypto and esports. Anything else that you'd like to add or say out to the folks that are listening?
If you haven't seen Matcha yet, go check it out. Matcha.xyz. It's I think it's the best place to handle all of your on-chain trading needs. And yeah, you could follow us on Twitter or Farcaster as well at matcha.xyz. Yeah, thanks again for having me. It was a blast being here.
Awesome. You're on Farcaster too, right?
I am. I'm just at Amir.
At Amir. What do you think of Farcaster, actually? I think I meant to ask you about that earlier, but I've been asking a lot of guests about it because I feel like it's kind of an emergent trend right now. But what are your thoughts on Farcaster?
Yeah, I love it. I mean, like I said, I'm just excited to see more and more experiments happening in this space. And I feel like once something gets to a certain level of adoption, like Farcaster or Warpcast has, like you need to pay attention to it. And I think they've done a great job just like building a strong community and actually differentiating from Twitter with frames. And it's actually useful. Like you go on there and there's interesting content to read, right? And it's a much different type than like you would find on Twitter, right? Like I use
like this podcast. Maybe you're watching this podcast right now on Farcaster.
There you go.
When matcha swap in a frame, that'd be pretty cool.
I feel like that's already happened at some point. We do have some matcha frames where you could kind of claim some degen and things like that for making a swap on matcha. I don't think we built one where you could swap directly in there, but I want to say I saw someone else that was using ZeroX for that purpose.
Very cool. Looking forward to this collaboration and seeing how it plays out. And thanks for taking a bet on Nouns. And I think it'll be a good long-term, hopefully, collaboration between us.
Yeah, of course. Likewise. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for your time, Amir, and we'll see you on chain.
All right. Thanks, Toby. See ya.
Cheers.